Before the implementation of Mexico's energy reforms, the country's deep water oil and gas activities were essentially undeveloped. As of today, the results of these reforms has allowed Mexico's state-owned oil company, in collaboration with experienced international technological partners, to unveil the country's true deep water potential. The deep water activities today are emerging throughout the Gulf of Mexico, off the shores of Campeche, Tabasco, Veracruz, and of course, in Tamaulipas. Whereas a result of the findings in the Plegado Perdido Basin, the port of Matamoros, whose strategic location and proximity to the basin, 136 nautical miles, more or less, will make this port the most viable option for those offering services and provisioning to the area. The port of Matamoros, located in the city of Matamoros, has allowed its economy, based traditionally in agriculture and manufacturing, to now be enhanced with the vibrancy of oil and gas industry and everything that derives from it. I am sure we all look forward to everyone's participation in this panel, in particular with the challenges facing not only the industry in Mexico, but in the whole world. This year, 2020, added many challenges to an already competitive industry. Now, if you don't mind, I will ask Bob to start the conversation with Raul, if I'm not mistaken. And to start with the first question. Question 1, 3 minutes each. Based on the deep water exploration activities and drilling results over the past years, what role should we expect deep water to play in Mexico's future reserves based and production portfolio?
Who you want to respond first?
3 minutes each, Bud and Raul.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bud.
Okay, yeah, so we've been fortunate enough to have been involved in just about all of the deepwater discoveries made by Pemex since 2010. So we're very familiar with the potential in the area, the results of exploration drilling. First, we'll say that the resource in deepwater in the deep waters off of Mexico are enormous. It's a very unexplored region, and so the exploration success ratio in the deep water Mexico, off the shores of Mexico, is really high. And in fact, when you look at the discoveries made by Pemex in the Perdido Trend, you see the Perdido Trend on the Mexico side of the demarcation line is probably significantly better than what's been found on the U.S. side. So, you know, the potential is there, and deep water should play a large part in the development of Mexico's reserves over the next few years. Simply because of the potential for the resource. But whether it will or not is going to be dependent purely on economics in terms of the price of oil and gas and on the political scene in Mexico. So it's hard to predict at this stage what it will play, simply because we're in a downturn in the economy. We don't know when the oil prices will return. They will eventually, no doubt, whenever the world economy picks up after the COVID regulation. But then how much it's developed will depend so much upon the governmental policies in Mexico. So in order to predict it now, it's almost impossible because of the current situation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Raul?
I would echo what Bob is saying. There's a few more information to that. Obviously, Mexico is not only Pemex. There's also IOCs out there that exploring deep water. You got the Murphy Oils, you have Talos, you have BHP. There's developments of deep water that even when Pemex before the pandemic stated that they did not want to go into deep water, as of late this year, even they've started changing their tune and they started recognizing that deep water might be inevitable for them because of the reasons that Bob mentions, the research. If we take the south of Mexico in specific, there's a large lack of gas that deep water developments could bring new reserves of gas into the pipeline. Now, deep water developments are expensive, and the cost of that gas might be higher than what the market regulates. But even Mexico has already started shifting their policies in terms of taxation, subsidies, and considering the transportation cost of that gas to south of Mexico. So all those actions by the government of Mexico will enable deep water developments in the future. Now, when that's going to happen, it's not, like Bob says, it's nothing definite. I would expect that in the next, I think if you're talking about actually seeing developments in action and being and installations of deep water developments ongoing, I think we're a good 2 to 3, maybe even 4 years out for some of them. Depending on what company you're talking to. Pemex might be the shortest route. They do have one active deepwater development, suspended deepwater development that they might reactivate. But even if they reactivated it today, the installation or the activities related to that project would only happen 2 years down the line. So that's the time frame that you need to envisage. And deep water. There's a technical definition of what is deep water and what's shallow water. 500 meters plus, you'll normally consider it deep water. But we also need to consider that Pemex has not done a development of deeper than 180 meters. So 180, 200 meters, that's deep water for Pemex. So it really depends on how you define deep water. And you will start seeing more of this 180, 200 meters developments sooner than you're going to see the 2,000 meter plus developments because they're cheaper. And there are some of those in the pipeline as well.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We sure appreciate your times and your participation, your comments. But we have a time limit, so I excuse myself because I have to be very sharp on that.
That's fine.
Well, question number 2. This is for Bob and Cesar. 3 minutes each. The question is, what implications are global CapEx cuts among IOCs likely to have for deeper water activities in Mexico? And where is Mexico positioned in the global portfolio of deep water opportunities of these companies? Very much like what Raul was mentioning a moment ago.
You want me to respond to that?
Go ahead, Bob. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, where is it in their portfolio? Well, again, it was very high in their portfolio when the Deepwater or when Mexico was open up to the IOCs. But with the change in government, I think those priorities have changed. I do believe that there will be one major deepwater development done. That will be the one that BHP operates, and they that's well into their plans. What the timing on that is anybody's guess because of the current oil price situation and the COVID-19 situation. But I think that will be developed. Some of the companies have drilled wells and pulled out. Some have pulled out before they drilled wells, and that's all due to how they see the economics, plus how they see the political regime in Mexico. We cannot overestimate the impact of government policy on the investment by IOCs in Deepwater Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, well, thanks, Bud, and thank you, Jesús. So, talking about IOCs, just this year, the deepwater projects in Mexico took the bulk of the exploration investments in Mexico during the third quarter of 2020, as private companies started ramping up activities. So data is all right. 3 projects, 2 from Shell, 1 with CNOOC, combined investment of $545 million US, account for 45% of the total investments and with 80% of the reserves for this quarter. So Chicalco, which is with Shell, holds 562 million barrels, and Ameyali with CNOOC holds 1,318 million barrels of oil equivalent. So this is as per the CNH data. Chimali, also with Shell, completes the 80% of the prospective reserves authorized for exploration during the quarter. So a total of 14 exploration projects were authorized by CNH in Q3 of this year. Now, I mentioned the international oil companies. However, there was also 5 projects approved for Pemex that, as we all remember, initially were concentrated only in shallow water, but now it's aiming back to deep water. So what is the message here? And I think it's for the title of this panel, is Unlocking Mexico's Deep Water Potential. Therefore, the portfolio in Mexico and for IOCs and the investment is totally worth it. I mean, let's bear in mind that in the US side of the Gulf of Mexico, the Perdido Fault well produces over 2 million barrels per day. So we're just starting to scratch the very tip of the iceberg in Mexico. Another important figure to keep in mind is the total surface area that concentrates just about 60% of the prospective resources in deep water for Mexico. In this case, it's 126,000 square kilometers, out of which 33,000 correspond to Perdido. And in between the northern Mexican ridges and the Saline Basin, they add up the other 93,000 square kilometers in balance. Hence, deep water remains the next frontier. And although there have been already 12 years of exploration work in Mexico, all needs to start paying off if Mexico wants to reach the production targets. So yeah, it does plays a crucial role for Mexico, but also for the world, because once again, it is a place to be.
Okay, Cesar, thank you very much. But again, thanks. And if you don't mind, I will go to the following question. Question number 3, it's for Bud. What are the main technical and operational challenges that operators have overcome in drilling their deep water wells? And what is your perspective on the deep water drilling success of operations in Mexico in recent years?
Hey, thank you. Well, deep water drilling has become, I don't like to say routine, because nothing in deep water, when you look at the enormous cost and actual difficulties in drilling in deep water, could be considered routine. However, the industry has developed drilling and production techniques to handle water depths, currently up to around 10,000 feet, and we can go beyond that. So I think we're in good shape technically at the moment. We've overcome a lot of challenges. We've overcome the challenges of just handling stacks. We've improved the times it takes to drill the wells. We've reduced the cost it takes to drill the wells. So the coming challenges will be as we get into higher pressures, because we'll be exceeding the limits of the 15,000 PSI equipment that we currently have. There's development ongoing in 20,000 PSI equipment, and there will be rigs out soon with 20,000 PSI drilling capability. And obviously, as we get into the deeper horizons, that's going to be really important. As far as production is concerned, the current state of the art is very well developed for at least up to 10,000 feet, and there are numerous development options that you can use in that deeper water. So I think, as I said, I don't want to say it's routine, but I think most of the really big technical challenges have been conquered. It's a matter now of cost and the price of oil in order to make it economic.
Good time. Thank you very much, Bud. We'll go to question number 4. That's Raul. Please, if you don't mind, I'll pass you the word, and you have 3 minutes. The question, yeah. What is your outlook on? Excuse me. What is your outlook on deep water development activities in Mexico?
Right. So, like I mentioned before, I think there will be deep water developments in Mexico. Like I mentioned, the 180s to 300 meter depths in the Cuenca Salina might be the nearest ones because of the lack of gas in the area. There might be one from Pemex, and I'm talking specifically for Pemex right now. That might be one for Pemex that might get reactivated early next year, together with a second one. That first one is an existing project, so it's going to should be easy enough for Pemex to reactivate it. There's a new, and that would be a really deep, ultra deep water. It would be a 2,000 meter gas development. There's a second one that we can see early next year in the first trimester, that is going to be around 200 meters water depth. It was a project that was deserted in the first round in 2017, and Pemex is looking to reactivate it as well. But that's from Pemex side. And those two projects, you have a horizon of between sanctioning to actually implementing them at least 2 years in terms of the engineering that's required, fabrication that's required before you actually get into the installation of them. For IOCs, you have Sama from Talos that they're already moving forward. That's a deep sea, or consider deep sea in one area. You have BHP that also has a field with Pemex. Murphy Oil is still a little bit far away, I believe, from actually doing a deep water development, but they're looking into it. And yeah, there's others. I think the horizon that people should have in mind is in the next 2 to 3 years, we should start seeing more and more deep water developments. Obviously, the policies and the regulations in Mexico need to allow for this to happen. There's a lot of negotiations between Pemex and the IOCs in terms of farm outs or associations that need to happen. But I believe that in 2-3 years, we'll start seeing some good deep water developments in Mexico because, like Bud said, the reserves are just needed.
Thank you very much. We sure appreciate your comments, and we'll be looking forward for the discussion when question and answers come. All right. Thank you very much. Now, this following question, the very last one, that's for Cesar and Bud. You have 3 minutes each, so be my guest. And the question is, I'm sorry, what should suppliers and service providers be doing today in order to meet the needs of deep water operations in the coming years?
Well, really the most important thing, I think, for the suppliers and the service companies to do is to try their very best to maintain experience level of their service and people within their industry. During this time of downturn, there have been so many good experienced people that have been let go. And so if you are a service company, you are a supplier, and you need to be looking at how you can retain the kind of experience that it takes to work in deep water. There's places to train people, and deep water isn't one of them because it's so expensive. So my point to the service and supply companies is try your very best to keep your really experienced people and spend the time and effort to now, while the activity is low, to do as much training with them as you can, because it really is going to be the most crucial point, is to have good, experienced people to work in the deep water. That's my number one.
Yeah, I think that's completing what Bob just mentioned. I would like to mention just quickly 4 topics. One, gear up for game-changing technology. I mean, it is not a secret that deep water operations are expensive. Just Raul mentioned it before with the first question. And the technology will be a critical factor for determining deep water's ability to compete with onshore shale. Exploration analytics to increase recoveries, for instance, is one of those technologies. Digital applications to improve efficiency, in this case, operating efficiency. Predictive maintenance analytics for critical pieces of equipment. I mean, the rigs are far from land. And remote operations, perhaps in the slightly longer future. Now, another topic would be, let's identify the new producer supply operating models. I mean, let's rethink the traditional ways of working and introduce partnerships as a concept, align incentives through sharing risk, but also sharing the value of the project end to end. Another topic would be national content. As suppliers, we need to make a substantial contribution to the operator's grand total of national content by clearly understanding the rules and capture the maximum components of national content, and also about collaborating with other suppliers. I would call it partners for the operator. But also the standards, particularly environmental, although HSE as a whole. Let's not settle with complying with the minimum, and let's be ready to enhance our practices to meet those or surpass the ones from the operator. We are a partner, not just another vendor. Those will be my advices.
All right, thank you very much. Well, if there's no further comments regarding these last questions, we have a few questions from the audience, and I think this first one, it's for Raul, and it says, what are the most important ways in which the conversation crowding surrounding Mexico's deep water sector has changed in the last year?
Well, for sure, the most important development of what has changed in the last year is Pemex, the CENER, and the Comisión Nacional de Hidrocarburos changing the language of how they're approaching deep water. Whereas last year they demonized deep water mainly on cost, and understandably so. They wanted to focus on low-hanging fruit and shallow water, things that could bring up production faster and bring revenues faster to Pemex. That's completely understandable. However, they made movements within Pemex. The Deep Water Development Department was removed. Now the conversation and what they're saying publicly has changed. They're not denying that they will go forward with deep water developments. That's very important. both government and Pemex talking about deepwater developments is very important, because that means that they're not shutting the door towards them. That's one of the things that has happened. The second thing is probably more important and people don't get to hear about it, is the regulation change in Mexico that is going on in terms of both taxation and subsidies allowable for gas in particular. This will allow or make the deep water developments, the cost of gas per metric ton, cheaper for Mexico, or at a price that's going to be competitive for IOCs and even Pemex to produce. So mainly, while the deep water development will still be expensive, the tax regulations modification for gas in particular, which is now of national importance, would make the projects economically feasible. So those changes will allow deep water developments in general to start developing. Now, once those take hold, once we are managed to do the first one, the second one and the third one will become easier to do. There's going to be economies of scale. But those changes in the last year alone will allow for next year to start approvals of deep water developments.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Raul. I guess this following question is for Cesar. What are the landmark events in Mexico's deep water history that you expect to witness in 2021?
Yeah, very exciting, by the way, it's coming in 2021. Let me really just rephrase something that I mentioned earlier. The two projects with Shell, it's happening as we speak. By the way, we're very happy that we are collaborating with Shell on these projects, and so we will be firsthand witnessing what is going to be the outcome of this campaign. CNOC, which is already as well on the works. Repsol is gearing up, and now once again, as I mentioned, Pemex, that was withholding from deep water projects, is aiming for those as well. So 2021, I think that we're going to start seeing a more robust action on deep water that we've been waiting for the past 12 years. Again, rephrasing what I just mentioned, and see what is really going to happen with the deep water in Mexico. This frontier, it's very exciting. Let's bear in mind that the deep water projects are normally within the 30% success ratio. So there's going to have to be a lot of resilience and a lot of interesting situations that will arise, and the reaction from the operators is going to be of paramount importance. Whether you go ahead and learn from your let's say mistakes in a way, or learn from the activity, or back off. I don't think there's a back off, and also there's a lot of other situations that have been occurring, right? The assignment of those blocks have been for quite some years now. It is until now that it starts paying off, but obviously as well, now the price of oil was a huge effect, but we have advanced a lot. So I think those are the major landmarks. Jesús.
Cesar, thank you very much for your comments. And this other question is I guess it's for Bud. What are the most important steps that deep water operators can take to learn all the lessons they can learn from drilling and drilling well?
Well, I think the most important thing they can do is be brutally honest with themselves. And they'll learn a great deal from the G&G standpoint, because they'll learn was their interpretation of the seismic, and the geological model is correct, or do they have to modify that based on what they learned? I'm not a geologist or geophysicist, but I do know that those people in our company take very seriously looking at what we found and how could we have maybe done a better job of modeling the geology and interpreting the seismic. So, so I think you need to be brutally honest about that, as opposed to try to excuse why you were maybe wrong. From a drilling standpoint, it's the exact same way. If you're going to learn anything from drilling the well, you have to be very honest about the decisions you made and about the risk reward you took in the trade-off. And so it really is very, very much analyzing every bit of the well from spud to TD, everything you did, everything that happened, and is there a way we could do it better? Is there a way we could do it cheaper, quicker, or faster? And it's mainly to be very honest and not to be defensive in your post-analysis.
All right. Thank you very much, Bob. I think this one is an open question to whoever wants to answer from the panelists. To what degree should the role of Pemex in Mexico's deepwater development change from what it is delayed? Does it say? What does it say here? Deleted, dictated by the sector's current configuration. This is open for anyone of you that wants to respond. Going once, twice.
I don't mind commenting a little bit. I think actually I kind of did in a way. The fact that Pemex is applying now for 5 exploration projects and got them awarded by CNH, when at the beginning of the year it was these backing off from Deepwater for the time being, is telling us the message. Let's bear in mind that Pemex continues being the largest operator in Mexico, and will continue being part of the being an institution, national oil company. The role is particularly interesting because let's bear in mind is 1.9 million barrels per day the objective by the end of this administration. We are at just over 1.6. So there's the need to really produce in that way. We know that we can just continue with the development that is existing. We can tap on some of the mature fields. New wells can be done in shallow waters, which are being drilled anyway, and also land is activating. But where your major reserves are today and is Deepwater. So by all means, Pemex is going to play an interesting role, and I think that in the good sense is also providing a good exchange of information and good practices. I mean, for 12 years, Pemex was investing there. Their success ratio, it's around 56% compared to the 30% that is in average in the world. So something was done properly. And so if that exchange happens within all the participants in the Deepwater, I think that this is the way to go.
I would like to add something, Jesús, if I may, on that specific question. And I am not sure if Pemex will be able to do it for legal reasons, not for anything else. But one of the things that successful deepwater development IOCs have done is to be flexible, not only honest, like Bud says, but also flexible in terms of how they maneuver the challenges of a particular project. But the most successful deepwater developments in the world have not been standalone projects. They have been programs of 3 or 4 projects in a row. And the reason for that is that you capture economies of scale. You grab one contractor for 3 or 4 projects. You buy material for 3 or 4 projects, and you take hold of economies of scale that reduce the cost of your whole developments and make it more feasible. I am not sure if Pemex can do this. The potential is there in the Gulf of Mexico to grab 3 or 4 deepwater developments and make one big program. However, the way Pemex is set up, that they need to ask permission to CNH and Sener to develop one specific block, I'm not sure if they'll be able to do it. But that's one thing that they would benefit from doing.
Yeah, let me weigh in just a little bit here, if possible, on this one, because I worked with Pemex now since 2009 on just about all their deepwater wells, and I have a very high regard for Pemex people. The people within Pemex are excellent, and the major role that Pemex could play would be huge, but I think they need a lot more autonomy from the government in order to pursue the role that they should pursue and be good partners and good operators within the deep water. So I think there has to be some fundamental changes in the way that Pemex is governed. They've got good people. We have a high regard for all of them, and they're very, very capable. They could play a significant role in deep water, given the right circumstances.
All right, bud. Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right. Okay. Well, this following question, I guess, is for Cesar. What are the implications of Mexico's move into deep water for vessel type or technology decision of companies such as Naviera Integral when making fleet development plans?
Thank you, and whoever asked that question, thank you so much, because this is really exciting, particularly for Naviera Integral, but also I think for the rest of the people within the fleet management. If there's a couple of things that are happening when you are in the Gulf of Mexico on the U.S. side. There's several developments, several vessels working around. In the case of an emergency, in the case of a rescue situation, God forbid, in the case of assistance, the response is more rapid. Not on our side. Therefore, we need to equip our vessels. Actually, we just have done with a vessel called Leonardo, which is an FSB DP251, which was equipped with a rescue vessel, with a rescue boat, with a crane, with cradles, with a large number of lifesavers and self-flotation devices. It's got an infirmary. It's going to have a permanent medic on board. The conditions have been changed in the way that you are not close to shore. You're far. The distances are longer. The speeds still are restricted with the technology that we have today, although we need to explore. So the one thing is safety above all, security, rapidness, health, and now with COVID, even more. But also, let's bear in mind the efficiency. Let's bear in mind that these wells are highly in cost. And if we need to start breaking paradigms. Naviera Integral, in this case, in our work with Shell, we are breaking a paradigm. We are, for the first time, using a vessel to transport personnel for crew change versus a helicopter. So instead of transporting 6 or 8 people at a time, we're transporting 35. And it's a longer run. However, we have now VIP seats, infotainment system, Wi-Fi, lounge area, we call it cafeteria, and ensuring that the people arrive safe, but also arrive rested. We're incorporating gyroscope stabilizers, so the transition for the people is with more comfort. Let's talk about GPSs. Let's talk about transmission of data, real-time scenarios. And let's talk about fuel efficiency. Let's talk about less emissions because we need to be contributing as well on the environmental aspect. So the whole thinking needs to be reinforced. And the only way that we are going to succeed is in that way, and aligning our objectives as fleet vessel provider to the objectives of the customer. We need to understand what are those and align our ways of working to help in that sense.
All right, Cesar, thank you very much. Just want to keep you in mind that the Port of Matamoros is very close by those drilling operations, and whatever services you need from us, we'll be more than glad to give them to you. All right, thank you.
Fantastic.
Well, this is time for the closing comments, and you have 2 minutes each, so you can make your closing comments, please. For me? Bud, I want to start with Bud then. All right.
Okay, well,
Bud.
thank you very much. It's been very interesting to hear the comments of the other panelists. They've added a lot to my knowledge already. I still say the real issue in Deepwater and how much it's going to be developed in Mexico is still going to be driven more by government policy than anything else we see, other than, of course, the price of oil. I was really pleased to hear Cesar talk about the improvements in the boat issues, because for so long in Mexico in the deep water, we've had to use too many basically shallow water boats, and I'm really glad to hear we're going to the big boats with high load capacity. That's going to be very, very helpful when we go back in the deep water. But and I agree with Raul. We will eventually be back in deep water in Mexico with PMEX. It's just going to be a matter of time and the capability, that the financial capability of PMEX to go back into deep water and compete. So I'm hopeful about the future. I think it'll be there.
All right, thank you, Bud. My timekeeper here is telling me that we only have 1 minute for Cesar and 1 minute for Raul. So please go ahead, Cesar.
All right. So there's a saying in Spanish as follows: "El que pega primero pega dos veces." So therefore, let's act now, get our foot on the door, and if our goal, and I'm talking about all combined in the oil and gas industries, the deep water activity, let's also be realistic. Yeah, not every company is geared for that sector, and sometimes we are needed right where we are. So, but in any case, let's just join efforts. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and can be simply complementing each other, and rather than try to pretend that we are all almighty. And thank you again, Jesús. Yes, Matamoros is there, so I'll stop by and see you.
Thank you very much. We'll be waiting for you, Raul.
Yeah, really quickly, I think just to give you a perspective from Saipem, what we're doing, we have developed and strategized that in Mexico, our core business will be deep water. We have mobilized one of our deep water reeling vessels to be based in the area in the Gulf of Mexico. So that should show you that we are all in deep water in Mexico, and we believe it's going to come sooner rather than later. We're already doing all the deep water, or a lot of deep water developments in Guyana. We're going to use the same assets in Mexico. It's just a matter of when, and we believe that next year will be an interesting year for deep water. We do sincerely believe that there's going to be one, if not two, major announcements from Pemex themselves on this field. So I think it's just, if I can leave you with a message, is just stay tuned in Deepwater. It will happen really, really soon.
Very good.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We sure appreciate your participation in this part of the summit, and we will be looking forward to see you and see what we can be of any help to you. So, Bud, Cesar, Raul, thank you very much again for your participation, and thank you all for the ones that joined this link for watching us and hearing us, and for the ones that made the questions. Thank you very much again.